My name's Vikki, and I am an alcoholic. And it's an honor to be here today. I remember exactly where I met you, Yvonne. We were at a workshop down in Fresno, and you were the delegate at the time. And I think I was the alternate delegate, and you did your experience, strength, and hope. And I really connected with you that day.
Yes,
and I got your number, and we've been friends ever since. So what I want to say is that I've earned my place in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm one of those people that alcohol was my friend. I never thought that I could be without alcohol, and anything that happened in my life, alcohol was right there. I grew up in a house where we had little supervision. Well, no supervision. And I had a couple of people that were very abusive to me, physically, sexually, emotionally. And I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And we were very poor. We were on assistance. And my mom was a single mom with 2 kids. And so she was gone. She was gone a lot. So because of the things that were happening to me, I thought that God hated me. Because I would look around and I would see people that were happy and that, had their mom and dad and had dinner at the dinner table and went to church and all that stuff. But I didn't have that. And I thought it was because God hated me because of the things that were happening to me. I used to pray at night. I would go to sleep crying, and I would pray that God would come and do something, and he never did. He never came and helped me. And so I thought he hated me. I grew up very much alone, very much afraid. And then I found alcohol. Alcohol made me somebody I wasn't. All of a sudden, I wasn't that little girl anymore that was having all these difficulties at home. I was somebody else, and it was great. It was really great. I think it might have saved my life, because I remember at 12 writing a suicide letter saying, I really just can't take this anymore. And I started 13. I was one of those people that I thought that if I did really well, that I would get attention and that people would love me. And it didn't work, but that's what I did. I got straight A's in school. I was did all the sports: basketball, baseball, volleyball, tennis, track, and I had to be the best in all of those. I even won a spelling bee one time just to prove that I could. But nobody paid attention. Nobody ever came to any of my games, to spelling bee, or never. But my need to succeed, I think, helped me to survive as well. By the time I was 15 years old, I was an everyday drinker. Alcohol was my friend. It made me smart. It made me pretty. It made me not care what people thought about me. In my secondhand clothes and my really, really crazy frizzy hair, it just made me not care what people thought, and that was great. That was really good. So when I was 15, I met him. His name was Jeff, and he was 6 foot something, blonde hair, blue eyes, and 23. And he had a black 1979 280Z special edition. It was hard. And he would pick me up from school, and I thought that I was the bomb. And I thought he was the bomb. We got very much involved with non-AA approved substances. We even took up a little bit of, the trade business. And things were good. Things were good for a long time. We really got along well. And you know what? The thing about him is that he cared. He would ask me questions, and he would listen to my answer, and he would respond. And it was nice to have that with somebody. So when I was 18, I married him, and we started our life together. The thing is by this time our alcoholism had spiraled out of control. He turned violent, but in very subtle ways, and I just chose to ignore it because I didn't have anything else. But then one day we took a fishing trip. We were fishing for sturgeon on the river in a boat, and he got really mad at me. And it was super dark outside, and he threw a fit, and he made that boat go as hard and fast as he could down the river with no lights. And I remember crying and asking God, the God that hated me, to please let me get to shore. So when we got to shore, I was stepping on the dock, and I remember hearing this voice, and the voice said, "Vikki, you can't live like this." And I said to myself, "Oh, yes, I can." This is, and I made every excuse in the world for him because I didn't, he was everything to me. But I left. And then he remarried almost right away, and his new wife was actually killed in a boating accident on the ocean. And it was very sad. He ended up passing away in a mental institution. So by this time, I'm 19 years old, and I don't have anywhere or anybody. So I like to say that I found people, places, and things. But the truth of the matter is I found men. Men are fascinating creatures. And they liked me, we would have our negotiations where, I would get my alcohol, and they would get what they wanted, and it was really good. I would, at first it was like really nice older gentlemen with a little bit of money that would take me to nice places and to concerts and buy me jewelry and dresses and shoes and stuff that I like, and take me to fancy restaurants, and we would have wine, and because at that time they didn't card me, so it was nice. But what happened is I didn't stay a very nice alcoholic for very long. My disease progressed, and I was horrible. I would have big scenes in the middle of the restaurant. Sometimes you would take me to dinner, and I would go leave with somebody else. It was just bad. It was just really bad. And pretty soon the nice men didn't want anything to do with me. So our book Alcoholics Anonymous talks about lesser companions. And I am a lesser companion magnet. If there's a lesser companion out there, I got him. I'm zeroed in on him. So from there, I found men that treated me the way that I grew up. Very abusive. I ended up in the hospital a couple of times. And for some reason, I felt like that's what I deserved, because it goes back to the God hated me, and this is all I'm good for. And I thought I was something special because I could endure that kind of treatment on a daily basis. And the truth of the matter is I had my alcohol, so I just drank myself right through it. I ended up pregnant um, with my daughter and with my son, and he was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. They handed him to me, and I thought that I was going to be the best mother ever. I was going to be the mother that I never had, and I never knew love like that. So me and my son Taylor, we embarked, and I was still deep in my alcoholism, and what happened was I was not able to take care of him. His dad filed papers and took me to court for custody. I did not have a defense. The paper said that I was a bad mother and that I was a drug addict and that I was an alcoholic and I did not deserve to have him. And I wanted to go to court and fight for him, but I didn't have a defense. I couldn't even go to the mediation without drinking. Years later, I went to the courthouse to look at some of the documents, and the mediator had written on the paperwork that I had alcohol on my breath. I don't even remember. So I lost custody. I lost everything. They even changed his last name. So after that happened, I didn't care. I really didn't care anything about me, about life. I dove into a bottle. I ended up finding entrepreneurs to stay with, and we were in a lucrative enterprise. I ended up pregnant with my daughter, but this time at the hospital, I tested positive for drugs and alcohol, and CPS was there, Child Protective Services, and they were going to take her. But I begged, and I meant it. I begged them just to let me keep her, and that I promise I'll go to all your meetings and all your rehabilitations, and that, you know, I'm going to be a good mother to her, and I meant it with all my heart. And they let me keep her. So this part. So we left the hospital, and I was still deep in my addictions, and I dragged that little girl through hell for the next 5 years. We just horrible things. And the book says, our book says, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. But I would do anything to have that not happen to her. And I'm still working on that. So what ended up happening is we were living with these people that were dealing, and Net 5, narcotics enforcement team, came in quite unexpectedly. They don't knock. They just come right in, and I had a warrant for my arrest, and they took me. And CPS was there, and they took her. And my world was over. I went to jail. I stayed in jail for a while. When I got out, I didn't have anywhere to go. At that time, I was staying at the park. Now, the park, at night, I was dumpster diving. I'm jumping in and out of dumpsters, getting cans and whatever I could to get my alcohol and my cigarettes. That's where all those sports came in. I finally got to do something with all that athletic ability. In Yuba City, it's illegal to dumpster dive, so you had to be quick. So I did that, and I slept during the day, And the cops would come and pick me up once in a while and take me to jail. And they'd let me out at 4:00 in the morning. And I don't even know why they did that, you know. And I asked them one day, and they said that they were trying to keep me safe. And I said, I don't care. I don't care if I'm safe or not. And you know what? I really didn't. I just did not care. But apparently they did. And so they hated to see me out there by myself all night. And so they took me to jail and then let me out at 4:00 in the morning. And then I would get out of jail and I would look out in the darkness and have nothing and feel nothing. I had no cigarettes, no alcohol, nobody to call, nowhere to go. And for me, that's the pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization our book talks about. It's that feeling that I had that I just was empty inside. And then I would just go right back to the park. So it was about this time that my boyfriend's girlfriend suggested that I go to rehabilitation. And I said, I don't want to go to rehab. You can't drink at rehab. And they said, Vikki, just go for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, you can come back and hit it just like you always have. But go and you know, take the hot showers and the warm bed and the 3 meals a day, and you know, just get yourself feeling better. And she must have really got me at a bad time because I was so dirty. I hadn't taken. Nobody would even let me take a shower at that house. They would see me coming, and they wouldn't answer the door. And I could see them in their house through the window, but they wouldn't answer the door because what would happen is I wouldn't leave. I didn't have anywhere to go, so if you let me in, you're in trouble. Because now I'm going to ask you for your food. I'm going to ask you for a shower. I'm going to ask you for a ride. I want your alcohol. I want your cigarettes. I want everything you have. So people wouldn't let me in. So when she suggested that I go to rehab and that there was hot showers and a warm bed, I was not sleeping very well at the park. And I remember being so dirty and so tired that I said yes. So I went. But I went in so drunk and loaded that I thought it was going to last me the whole 30 days I was there. They had to put me in another room because I was a trigger to the other patients. I just come flying in. But I was so sick. The next morning, I was just so sick. I didn't even hear what they were saying to me for the first 10 days. I was just in and out of passing out. You know, I hadn't had a sober. The only time that I was sober was when I was in jail. And so this was really, really difficult. Spiders coming out of the walls, and snakes underneath the bed. It was brutal. About the 10th day, I started listening. I started hearing what they were saying, and they said, Vikki, you don't have to drink again if you don't want to. And I said, what am I going to do instead? And they said, we'll show you. And I thought, sure, right, you're going to show me. I've heard that before, is what I was thinking, you know. I didn't believe them, but they did. They did show me. They started taking me to meetings, and they were showing me through example what sobriety looked like. And I got to tell you, I kicked and screamed and wiggled the whole time, you know. I just really didn't think that it was going to work for me because God hates me. And God was working in their lives. I could see that, but I just knew he wasn't going to work for me. So they started taking me to meetings. My first home group was the Al-Anon in Marysville. And, you know, it was funny because I walk in and there's a whole bunch of older men with money. And I think, oh yeah, I got this. I think, oh yeah, this is going to be easy for me. And you know what? Um, those old men loved me like I never knew. You know, I was sure that they would want something for their kindness, and the fact of the matter is they didn't. They would give me rides. Sometimes they'd give me cigarettes. Sometimes they'd give me money, and all they really wanted from me was to stay sober. They gave me a certificate for every month that I stayed sober because they knew that I needed that. And those old men in there will always be in my heart. So they did suggest that I get a sponsor, and so I did that. And they said my sponsor said to get a God. And I told her, I said, you don't understand. God hates me. Is there anything else I can do besides that? And I would have done anything. But she said no. She said, you get a God or you go back where you came from. And I'm like, wow. So I got to create my own. And the God that I created at the time was very handsome, tall, handsome. He loves me unconditionally. It doesn't matter what I do. He loves me anyway. And that's something that I never had. And so I got that from my higher power. He never leaves me, always with me. He likes country music. And we started a relationship. At first, I didn't really know that it was a relationship because our dialogue, I was living at the homeless shelter because I didn't have anywhere to go when I got out of rehab. So I went to live at the homeless shelter, and I ended up cussing at him a lot because I missed my children, and I missed alcohol, and the depot, the homeless shelter was loud, and it was just really a horrible time for me. And I just remember praying, but every other word was cuss word because I was not happy. And then from that, I guess our relationship came out of that. I remember it was my 44th day, and I was walking to the hub, and I walked right past the liquor store. I walked right past it, and I stopped and I looked, and I couldn't believe it because every time that I walked past that liquor store before, my mind was just going crazy. I was trying to figure out how I could get in there, how I could get something, how maybe I could steal it, maybe I could trade for it. There's got to be something I could do. I mean, just every time. And this day, I went right by it, and I looked, and I just couldn't believe it. And then that's when I knew that God loves me. Because that wasn't me. That had to be him. I was incapable of that at that time. And so from there, we started a relationship, other than cussing and screaming at him. We started a relationship. I remember the day that I decided to take my first step. I was in treatment, and one of my boyfriends had come in with alcohol in his pocket, and he said, do you want it? And I remember thinking, oh God, yes, I want it. I remember how excited I was, and he was going to hide it in the bathroom, and I was going to go and drink it, and it was going to be great. And so he hid it in the bathroom, and I was on my way, and the little voice came in and said, and then what? And I thought, well, I'm gonna drink that. I'm gonna get kicked out of treatment, and I'm gonna end up back at the park. So then I figured, well, if I'm gonna end up back at the park, I might as well give this program everything I have. And if it doesn't work, then I'll go back to the park. And I really didn't think that I was gonna make it, but I just thought I'll do it. I'll give it my best shot. And that's when I took my first step. So when I got with my sponsor for my second and third step, I was ready. We did our fourth step, and that was really hard for me because I told her stuff that I had never told anybody about, all that stuff that happened to me when growing up, and all the stuff that I did to people when I got older. And for some reason, I thought people owed me something, and I was horrible. I was horrible to people, and that wasn't fair, and that wasn't right, and I had to tell my sponsor all about that. So I did that. The whole time that I'm doing my steps with my sponsor, CPS has still got my daughter. And they, on my birthday, I called and I said, "It's my birthday. Is it okay if I see my daughter today?" And they said, "Oh, you didn't get our letter?" And I said, "What letter?" And they said, "Oh, well, we decided to terminate your parental rights." And I was really devastated by that news, because I was doing so well. I had like 60 days of sobriety, don't you know? And I was trying so hard, and I just ran outside and was crying. And one of the counselors came out there and said, "Well, Vikki, you have to decide if you're going to stay sober no matter what." And so I decided I'm just going to keep trying, keep doing the best I can. And if I can't do it, I can't do it. So that was 18 years ago. I just celebrated my 18th year last month, the day that I woke up in treatment. And life has been good. I continued doing the steps with my sponsor. So what happened was we were to go back to court in November, and we were going to sign over parental rights to the foster family. They were there. They had already fixed up her room, and I brought all my stuff. I brought all my letters from. I brought a letter from rehab. I brought a letter from my probation officer, my sponsor, anybody that would write anything nice about me. All my meeting slips. I was going to like 2 or 3 meetings a day, and so I had all those, and I made copies of them. I gave one to the judge, and I gave one to the CPS attorney. And the judge looked at all the paperwork. He looked at me, and then he looked up, and he looked back down at me, and he said, "I'm going to give you another chance." And the CPS attorney stood up and yelled, "You can't do that." And the judge said, "I just did." And so that changed my life. Probably the best day of my life. Tears of joy for me, and tears of pain for the foster family. It was quite an emotional day. And from there, I got the opportunity to try to get her back. It took 1.5 years. I had to do everything they asked me to do. And I got her back. She was 5 when they took her, and she was 7 when I got her back. And it was quite an adjustment. By this time, I had a really horrible cockroach apartment. That's all I could afford. But I had to have somewhere to live in order for her to come home. And it was quite an adjustment because she was the boss. The poor little girl, she didn't even know that peanut butter and jelly sandwiches had jelly. She called them peanut butter sandwiches. She didn't even know that jelly was supposed to be there. It breaks my heart. And there's a whole bunch of things just like that that break my heart. But we managed. We did really well, me and her. We have a wonderful relationship today. She's 23. She's my best friend. She still lives with me. I don't know that she'll ever move. But we've grown up together, me and her. Literally, we've literally grown up together, and I just don't know what my life would have been without her. I imagine I don't know that I would have stayed sober. Um, you know, she's been amazing. So, I finished up the steps and I got into service. The first thing I did was, I volunteered to be the GSR at my home group, a general service representative. Um, but I only had a year sober, and they said, "Oh, you can't do it. You don't have enough time." And somebody said, "Oh, we'll waive that." And I said, "Oh, they really want me." I didn't know that they didn't have anybody else to do it. They were just glad that somebody volunteered. Um, and I thought it was going to be easy because it was a frontline group who was really, really, really rowdy, and I thought it was going to be easy, but it wasn't. They were very much into the link of communication, and they sent me to PRASA, Pacific Region Alcoholics Anonymous Service Assembly. And that year it was being held in Tucson, Arizona, and they wanted me to go. They trusted me. They trusted me to go and represent them in this thing. And they put me on a plane. I'd never been on a plane before. They put me on a plane and they paid my way, and they trusted me to take the information, and I took it so seriously. I went to every single thing that they did, and I wrote notes. I had pages and pages and pages of notes, and I typed everything up, and I printed everything up and stapled it and passed it out, and nobody read it. But that was okay. That was okay because I had fallen in love with general service. I fell in love with the people there. They had just a twinkle in their eye and a love in their hearts that I could feel. And I wanted what they had. So then when it came time for the district committee member at our district, I made myself available for that. And then I got to be finance chair of the area. I got drawn out of a hat because nobody in their right mind would elect me to that. But it turned out to be okay. We did a great job. I had a committee, and we worked together, and it was great. And then I got to be secretary and chair. I learned how, I learned about personalities and how to compromise and cooperation. I learned so much as chair. And then I was alternate delegate. And then just a few years ago, I got to be delegate. And they sent me to New York to the annual General Service Conference, and they trusted me. They trusted me to go there and get the information and to bring it back. And I'm honored. I'm actually honored for anybody asked me to do any kind of service in Alcoholics Anonymous, because I'm not a trustworthy person. Well, I wasn't. You couldn't trust me to watch your dog before, and now you're trusting me to go all the way to New York and come back with the information that keeps Alcoholics Anonymous alive and well. Life has been all wonderful and great because that's the kind of personality that I have. But the truth of it is, it has. It has. I found him in Alcoholics Anonymous. We were going to be Mr. and Mrs. AA. He had all these sponsees, and I had all these sponsees, and we were going to meetings, and we were going to be praying, and we were going to church. I mean, it was like picture perfect. And then I married him. We got married in our church by our pastor. My kids were the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, and everything, and pretty white dress. My dad gave me away. It was beautiful. And I don't want to take that away from me. I don't, because it was a beautiful day. But what happened was he ended up having a couple of mental problems himself. He chose 12-year-old girls, my daughter. Um, so when my daughter came to me with that, I was devastated. But I knew that she was telling me the truth. You know how you just kind of know, you have that sinking feeling in your stomach, and you just know that it's true. And so we left. We had a beautiful home. We just packed up and left. I want to say that we did, but I couldn't. I told one friend in Alcoholics Anonymous that I had to move. I didn't even tell her why. And the day that I had to move, I had 20 people there with their trucks and their trailers and their. They came at 8:00, and I was moved to my new apartment by noon. They even put my kitchen together because I was honestly I was a mess. I couldn't make decisions to save my life. I was really it was a bad time for me, and I really thought that I would drink, but I didn't really want to drink. I just didn't want to live. And that's when I learned I needed to pick up the phone and tell people how I was feeling. And I'm not really good at that. But I did that. And the women in the program saved my life. So I went to work at the pharmacy. I started, they were going to teach me how to work the digital scales. I said, no, I got that. And I worked at the pharmacy for a long time, and it was good. It was really good. But after I got my my divorce, I realized that I needed some kind of security. So I started going. I started applying for a county job because I needed that. My daughter needed that, and I interviewed 7 times for anything that they would anything that they had open, and I finally got in. And this July, next month, I'll have 5 years working there, and it's great because I get to work with the homeless people, and I get to work with the drunk, entitled, angry mothers and dads, and just like me, just like I was, and it's great. It really is. God's got me where He wants me. And my life is beautiful today. I continue to go to meetings. I continue to be of service. Right now, I'm doing hospitals and institutions. I am public information chair. I don't see myself without a service commitment because I think that's where it's at. I think that's where it's at. It gets me out of myself, and I get to do stuff for others. I wanna say that I've gotten a lot of gifts in Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot. I remember Ed. Ed was one of those old men in my home group. We just saw him last night. Because he's not doing so well, and it was nice to see him. But when I was new, he would say that he had so many kitchen items that if he got one more, he would have to move. And I thought, wow, I want stuff because I didn't have anything. I lived at the depot. I didn't have anything, and I thought, man, I want stuff. So I accumulated stuff. I got the kitchen gadgets and the furniture and all of that. But the gifts that I really are valuable are the ones I didn't see coming, that I didn't have any idea. Like when I look in the mirror, I'm not ashamed of who I am. My relationship with my higher power, by far the best gift I've ever gotten, because I know that it doesn't matter what happens to me. My higher power's got me, and I'm excited to what the future holds. I never know what that might be, but I know that with my higher power, anything's possible. I do want to say that my son is 25 now, and he loves his mother. He sees me on a regular basis. His dad told him that I was sick, and that when I got better, I would come for him, and that's exactly what happened. And so life is good, and I want to just end by thanking you for allowing me to be of service.